Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's episode of Trending. As always, it's brought to you in association with our brand new range of Ickonic coffee. Head over to shop.ickonic.com and use the code TRENDING, and that will get you 10% off. I'm joined today by Richard Willett. How are you, my friend?
I'm all good, thank you. Nice to be back this week.
It's nice to see you. I hope you're not holding your breath for the Epstein client list, because I know you're very excited by it.
Yeah, I said to someone the other day, they might just send us a blank sheet of paper and a marker pen so we can colour it in black. That's what you're going to get.
It's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Now, in terms of this task force, we've spoke about it many times, Richard, the task force that was put in charge of releasing these files, that in itself to me was a red flag. If you want full disclosure, which is what we were promised, and obviously politicians don't lie, you just release them. Why do you need a task force? Just release them. We'll read the names on them. We'll see who the clients were. We'll see when they attended the island, when they went on the airplane, all that kind of stuff. We'll do that as citizen journalists and human beings. And then we spoke about who was leading the task force, which was Anna Polina Luna, who is a Republican and is an Israel firster, as they almost all are. This is someone that tried to introduce in 2023 a bill called the Stand With Israel Bill. Now, this is a quote from her, because even though we called out her being head of the task force and her connections to Israel, given the connections Israel has with JFK, with RFK, with 9/11, and particularly with the Epstein client list, given the fact that Epstein was a Mossad agent. But she's saying the right things, Rich. So this is a quote. She's saying, we have asked for the full list. So the head of the task force doesn't even have the full list, right? Obviously, a few, influencers were given some binders last week that they could sort of dance around the White House with, which is all very strange. But the head of the task force doesn't even have the full list. We've asked for all of the documentation. We are pushing for maximum transparency. But again, we do not hold the classification authority, Luna said. That is, again, up to the Attorney General. So what you've done, you've put someone in charge of the task force of releasing the files, and then you've said, oh, by the way, you don't actually have the security clearance to see the files that you're about to release. Make it make sense. When pushed on it, she was quoted as saying she's not confident in the release of all these Epstein files. Well, neither am I, and I wasn't from the beginning. Now, the Attorney General, that job then comes down to this Pam Bondi, who again is an Israel firster, as everyone is in Trump's administration, and to be fair, in the opposition in the United States. She's someone that called for protesters who were protesting against the genocide in Gaza, of course, to be kicked out of university, and if they're foreign students, kicked out of the country, having their visas revoked. So there's your freedom of speech. Now, she was quoted yesterday, Rich, right, as saying, drum roll, for all the surprised in the room, national security information will be redacted from the Epstein files. She doesn't specify what nation's security. But by saying national security information, of course, it's disconcertingly vague, isn't it, Rich? Because you could apply that to literally anything. You could apply, well, that could be a threat to our national security because of, and then you could have every single letter of the alphabet for different reasons why. Now, just quickly, Rich, I said this the other day, we've spoke about this many times, where the Epstein client list, this is a list of people that are essentially part of a Mossad and CIA blackmail operation. If I had a blackmail operation, if I had a list of people that I had under my control because I had compromat on them, I wouldn't hand them to the people either, because I would lose that control, wouldn't I? So what we're going to get some dead paedophiles, and we're going to get given a list of people that are basically surplus to requirements. Those that are the heads of the snake are going to be protected because they're the heads of the snake, and those that are still in positions of government, of influence, of policy-making, decision-making, they're not going to be given up because they're still controlled. So their names will be protected, they'll be redacted, so that they can then, at a later date, use them to push an agenda that either the CIA or the Mossad want, Rich. Honestly, you're as shocked as me that this has not been released, aren't you?
I'm dumbfounded is the word I'm looking for. Absolutely dumbfounded. I thought we were going to get clear transparency on all the names. Now, Pam Bondi, by the way, is a Scientologist, so make of that what you will. Zorro Ranch isn't that far from their Church of Spiritual Technology base in New Mexico, Trementina. We've spoken about tunnels under New Mexico, so connect those dots if you like, and maybe there's nothing to it, but there's Dulce Base not too far and Los Alamos not too far from it as well. So this underground city thing seems to be far more, there's something to look into, something to dig into, literally there. If you want to borrow Elon Musk's boring company to have a go at that as well, you can do. They're clearly filling up some tunnels on the island with some cement. There's much more going on here. I've got an interview coming up this Friday that pulls into question the entire flight logs and whether you can trust what's on there or not. So that'll be this Friday on Classified. And someone who was an Epstein survivor calls into question the flight logs and what's actually on there. So, and we'll be looking at the evidence that questions that as well. So how much can you trust these, lists anyway? I've always said that it's a distraction, the flight logs, to what's going on underneath. But you've got Pam Bondi there. You've got all these Israeli firsts. We know that Epstein spent time with the former president, or do you call it prime minister of Israel, a few times. That's openly discussed. There's so many connections to Israel there. So obviously this national security is Israel's, not US national security, is quite clear. But you can see how they kick the can down the road, and obviously these Trump supporters are scrambling about to find a reason why he's playing 12D chess this time. It's absurd. And they're taking the mickey, obviously, and just kicking the can down the road while they bring about their plans for Gaza. They need more time. And this just does that. It just delays people hope and push the can down the road. It's the same with a cult. In a cult, if they come to the end times, all these end times cults, and the date comes, they go, well, I've suddenly got the night before a download from the gods above, and the date's been moved to another 2 years' time because la 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 la, and it's the same nonsense. It's the same cult programming, and because people have invested so much time in the cult of Trump, the cult of Musk, the cult of Keir Starmer, the cult of Biden, all of these people are in the same cult, that they will go along with it because they don't. That gives them 2 more years to not have to look at their own kind of self and go, we were tricked again, were we? And that's what it is. It's just the cult program is exactly the same. So they're kicking the can down the road, and they'll come up with another date and another reason for you to hold out. But also look at the distractions. What are they distracting you from whilst they're getting on with pretending to release this list? And the list doesn't matter anyway. What does it prove? We're in an age where we can watch AI videos, and very difficult now to tell the difference. So, muddying the waters is going to be so easy when you've got this technology. What does a video, an audio prove anymore, Gaz?
Well, they'll give us who they want to give us, and they'll keep from us who they want to keep from us. That's pretty obvious. And I remember saying a few days ago, I was like, do you honestly think the Mossad and CIA are going to give you their blackmail list? And I got, a lot of people agreed with that. But then a lot of others coming back going, again, it's being negative again. It's not being negative. It's just being honest, and it's being open and going, well, it's clearly not going to happen. And it isn't happening. Now, in terms of, because your next story we're going to come up to now, Rich, this to me is interesting because it's a bit of diversion. It's a bit of demonization. Look the other way when it comes to Israel. Look the other way when it comes to what Britain, what the United States, what Germany, what anyone else is doing. Focus on Russia. They're the bad guys. And the other nation to focus on is...
If you saw someone going really fast and he went past you, what would you say he did?
I'd call it he ran. But that's pretty close to Iran.
It's pretty good though, isn't it? I just made that up on the spot. I thought you'd appreciate that. Anybody working for Iran in UK must register or face jail, government announces. So if you're working for Iran, even if you're a media presence in here for Iran, you have to register or you're arrested. Not Israel. Obviously, do what you like. Anybody who works for or is a proxy of the Iranian state will have to register their presence in the UK or face jail time. I'm not sure how that works with the secret services, because the whole point is you're secretly doing it. Yeah. Okay. Just don't put me in jail. I am absolutely a secret service agent. Security Minister Dan Jarvis said Iran, including its IRGC intelligence services and the Ministry of Intelligence and Security is being placed on the enhanced tier list of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, FIRS it's called. That means any members of the Iranian state or anybody acting on behalf of the state carrying out political influence. We didn't have any of that from Israel, did we, for the last 30 plus years? Activities in the UK will have to register themselves with the scheme. Failure to register is a criminal offence. Failure to register as a secret intelligence agent from Iran with the UK is a criminal offence. I'm not quite sure these guys get intelligence, the point of it, really. Iran is the first foreign power to be placed on the enhanced tier of the scheme, which has two levels. Aimed at strengthening the resilience of the UK's political system. There is none. We have an Israeli political system against covert foreign influences. Now, how absurd is this? We saw on Channel 4. This is an open thing. This is not, most people don't know about the Israeli lobby and how that came out. We had a whole Channel 4 documentary about this, and that was only scratching the surface. Anyone with one functioning or two functioning brain cells know that the US is controlled politically by Israel. Look at them all. They're all lobbied by Israel. Trump, Biden, Obama, all of them, and everyone underneath them. JD Vance, they're all connected to various Israeli AIPAC funded lobbies. So this is absurd, obviously, but it's again what you said. It's look at the Iranians, the Islam baddies. Don't look at Israel. And if you do, you're anti-Semitic, which makes absolutely no sense because the term doesn't mean that. So let's go on to just read a little bit more. He also announced Jonathan Hall KC, the UK's independent state threat and terrorism legislation reviewer, has been asked to review the sections of the UK's counter-terrorism framework that could be applied to modern-day threats such as those in Iran. Not a word about Israel, obviously. So this is a bit of gaslighting, but obviously this is to gaslight up the Britain first, these Islamists, these Arabs coming over here and stealing all our jobs and hurting our women and all of this nonsense to place against Iran, which will obviously only benefit who, Gaz?
Well, I saw this story and I thought the sheer inversion of it, because you mentioned there the lobby. The lobby was a documentary. Now there is a lobby documentary I think Al Jazeera made about the United States, although you don't really need the lobby going undercover in the United States because AIPAC are so proud of it that they openly tweet on a regular basis that they're funding however many of these congressmen and senators and whatever, and that their percentage of people that they have elected, they're very proud of it. If you're funded by AIPAC and supported by AIPAC, you're getting elected. They don't hide that. Now, they hide it a little bit more in the UK. So the Channel 4 documentary, The Lobby, went undercover in Corbyn's Labour government. So this was when they were in opposition. And obviously they were undermining Corbyn massively because of whatever you think about Corbyn. He has a support for Palestinians, and that ain't going to fly. So so they secretly filmed meetings between MPs, Labour Party MPs that were part of the Labour Friends of Israel, with members of the Israeli government through the Israeli embassy, where basically the Israeli embassy was giving them a list of politicians and councillors that were supportive of Palestinians to destroy, to get rid of, not kill, but essentially, assassinate their character. So this is going on and is well documented and well known. But it's the Iranians that are the problem. It's their influence over UK politics. Well, how many members of the Conservative Party are a member of the Conservative Friends of Iran? And how many Labour Party members are friends of the Labour Friends of Iran? Because they're all friends of the Labour Friends of Israel. They're all part of those organisations. Now, I don't think any foreign country or entity should have any lobbying power over any government at all. But that has to count for everyone. That means every single thing. Now, I see it the same way as you, Rich, in that it is about a demonization of Iran, in the same way that we've seen it with the demonization of Russia. They've used different means for that, whether it be human rights, talking about with the World Cup and the LGBTQ community, with the doping, with lots of things, with the poisonings in Salisbury, which was absolute nonsense, the official narrative of that. There's a demonization of Russia. Russia bad. So that then goes into people's psyches as Russia bad, Russia bad. Okay. And now the reason they're doing that is they want war with Russia. And that's what we're being pushed towards by the day. But they want the same with Iran. So again, it's poking in. Now, I'm not a fan of Iran, by the way, Rich, as I doubt you are in terms of, you know, the way they rule their population with an iron fist and all that kind of stuff. I'm no fan of that nonsense at all. But at the same time, there's other places that do that. That Saudi Arabia, you ignore that. Yeah. But I think it's about preparing the population to dislike Iran, to distrust Iran, so that when any escalation comes out of what's happening in the Middle East, that ceasefire in the Middle East, which we're going to come to in a bit, will not last long at all because it was never planned to. It's that when it kicks off, the British people, the American people, will accept it. Well, okay, yeah, I suppose we've got to go to war with Russia because they're bad because X, Y, and Z. Same with Iran. That's what this feels like to me, Rich.
Yeah, and I think another thing to point out is it depends on the goodies and the baddies. The good cop, bad cop depends on what country you're in. So Russia are now aligned with the US. So it switches. So you have to keep an eye on it. And remember that they're doing it from your point of view. This is multifaceted. So it's not global in that sense of the goody baddies. It really depends on what point of view you're put in. So to the UK now, most people, I mean, a lot of us like us will speak out against what Ukraine did. And obviously they were poking the bear with Russia, but this is all orchestrated from a different level. So to the UK now, most people would support Ukraine and be against Russia. In the US, you've got that alliance now. They were nuking each other not too long ago, Russia and US. It really depends on where you're coming from. And that's what the point is, that they know these divisions. So they kind of create this own little subsect of a universe where the goody and baddies are one thing in, say, the UK. And if you saw the US as a different universe, the goodies and baddies are flipped on their head. And that's how they do it, because it creates just confusion. So you have to see the individual context of the situation. The only way to do that is to zoom out and see, look, okay, all of this has been played by the same people on both sides. They're just using one country against each other, and they will flip that narrative overnight. So what's the common denominator? What are they working towards? And that's when you come to their, what I call Middle Eastenders, with their pretend fighting with Zelenskyy and Trump there, who are both, as I keep pointing out, part of this messianic cult that keep pushing this stuff in the Middle East. So it's a much bigger zoomed out. They want you to identify with a country because then they can pin you to a certain narrative, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And October 7th was a prime example of that, on a personal level. Tweeting out support for friends of mine that were in Israel, hoping that they were okay, got me called a Zionist shill. On the same day, I was tweeting the fact that, I believe this was probably allowed to happen and that this is going to be the excuse for sending the boys in and destroying Gaza. That then got me called an anti-Semite. So I got called those two things on the same day because what I did is I didn't pick a side. I went, I'm on the side of humanity. Killing Israelis is bad. Killing Palestinians is bad, but that's not suitable. You got to pick one or the other.
Well, that's it.
You're with us or you're with the terrorists.
It's the same. If you look at but if you look at a computer, they need a binary choice to be able to kick off the algorithm. So if you don't give them a binary choice, they don't know where to go for it. So don't give them a binary choice. That's the way you stay out of this system. I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to sit down at the chess table and play the game with you because I know you're controlling both sides. I'm going to sit there and try and tell others that you're controlling both sides. That's my job in the game. I'm the one in the audience going, they're cheating, both sides. It's a script. Just be in the audience and shout it out for what it is. The emperor's got no clothes on. He's spinning it around in front of you, and he's been doing it for a long time. And if you're that person in the audience and you refuse to take part in the EastEnders, Middle Eastenders, or the drama and the theatre of it all, they can't do anything with you because you're not a player in the play. So that's where they can't do anything. And an algorithm can't do anything until you put something in. So don't give them a binary choice. As you say, straight down the middle. They're all the same. Yeah. And what they are is controlling you and basically getting you to murder each other. And that's what we're trying to stop. So when people come out and say stuff like, what are you doing? I'm trying to tell you that both sides of this that you two are arguing over are playing you off against each other. Let's go down the pub and have a drink and a cuddle.
Yeah.
Maybe not a cuddle.
Well, I align with that way of thinking. I am literally the personification of, you know, not discriminating. Basically, I despise them all equally.
Yeah.
Right. So moving on then, but not really moving on because it actually ties in perfectly to what you were just talking about. So Zelensky sent a letter now to Trump, right? Now saying that he all of a sudden now wants to come to the negotiating table and negotiate for a long-lasting peace. It's quite a sycophantic letter, you know, strong leadership of Trump, blowing smoke up his arse and all this kind of stuff. And I looked at it and I thought, right, this to me is a way that both of them can save face, because, you know, we spoke about that conversation that they had in the Oval Office. It was like watching, you know, The Only Way is Essex or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever. It's like some scripted play. And as you say, there's goodies and there's baddies, but they're both actors. So you had one side of it saying that Zelensky came out of that awfully. He's a little toddler demanding more sweets at the checkout. He doesn't want peace. He wants more of his Ukrainian people to go into the meat grinder and die for a war he can't possibly win. The other side were like, what a hero, what a guy, right, for Zelensky. So you split the room on that. And then with Trump, it was, again, one side was like, amazing, true strength by Trump. He stood up to the toddler. He let him have it. Everyone else around the world just hands over the casino chips. Trump's refused. Good on him. And then the other side were going, he bullied Zelensky. Zelensky's a hero and Trump's a bully, and all this kind of stuff. So it's split. So I think what they're trying to do is both of them save face with this. So from Zelensky's point of view, this letter saying, okay, I'll come to the negotiation table, I want peace, that kind of placates those that are saying he's a warmongering grifter, right? So it placates them a little bit. But what it does as well for Trump is Trump, as he did last night in his speech, he read out sections of that letter from Zelensky, is it kind of says to those people that were saying he's a bully and a fool and an idiot and, well, yeah, but look, I got him to the negotiation table. So it placates them, right? So what you've got is you've got them kind of both coming out of it slightly better, both kind of winning in a certain way. But obviously we know that war with Russia, war in Europe, the escalation of it is exactly what they want. So this whole kind of, I'm going to come to the negotiation table, I'm going to have peace. Look, I've got him to the negotiation table by being tough with him. This is the theatre that we're looking at. But something is going to happen, because it needs to happen, to get the population of the United States, of Europe, to agree to the escalation in Ukraine and Russia. And I think what we're going to find, and I asked this question to social media, what people thought. The overwhelming majority thought it would be a cyber attack, something that attacked the supply chain into Europe, of whether it be fuel or food or whatever. I think something's coming, Rich. I think a false flag is coming that will be blamed on Russia. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm sat here in 6 months going, oh God, what was I talking about? False flag. But I think that something is coming that will be blamed on Russia, whether it be a cyber attack that brings down the banking sector or whatever, that then, oh, well, we're going to have to go and fight them then. Didn't want to. See, he was ready to come and have peace. And I was ready to sit at the head of the table and negotiate a peace, but I can't now. I mean, look at Europe; it's on its knees, and then we get that manufactured consent. Like I say, I hope I'm wrong, Rich, but I just get this feeling that something's coming.
Well, I mean, we're asking questions, aren't we? Every question is valid like this to point this out where this may go. And when you're controlling both sides of the board, then you can take it anywhere you want. So again, we look at the common denominator here. I mean, a good analogy, and I love an analogy, would be when you watch that bit of footage of them having a Middle East Enders pretend fight. Say you're in two cinemas in different parts of the world. You're watching exactly the same footage, but the subtitles are different depending on where you're coming from that create the context of what you're seeing. So if you're a Zelensky supporter, you're getting one set of subtitles. If you're a Trump supporter, you're getting another set. You're watching exactly the same footage, but the context is different. So the news is the subtitles for it. They're selling to you in a different way depending on the market. And I think that's a good analogy to understand, is that you're watching the same thing, they're just selling it different to you because these are all players on the same stage. And again, the only thing that's connecting them I can think of is this messianic agenda. for the Middle East and its world to come, Olam Haba. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I've not found another thing that connects all these three people so solidly and disturbingly as a messianic agenda for the Middle East, which is the world to come, which is exactly the same as the new earth, the new world order, the golden age of Saturn. They're all the same thing. So it does seem to me there's a lot of legitimacy in people's work like Christopher John Biotis of where this is actually heading. And I would suggest that people look into these people. Now, maybe there's nothing to it, but they keep popping up. And clearly it's a stage play. So just be aware of how they're selling it to you, and not even on a basis of countries. Remember, your algorithms are going to sell it to you in the way that they know is good for you and your individual psyche, because that's what's going to be trending. I don't know what's trending in my list. It's the same as yours, Gaz. How do I know? As we sit side by side. So we've got to be aware of being manipulated left, right, and centre by the same people across the board. So yes, I see what you see, that the possible outcome is that. But again, remember, all of these people are connected and they're playing a game with you. The best thing to do, as I said before, is to stand back and say they're all on the same team. None of them care about us, guys. None of them are sitting at home worrying about their electric bill. None of them are sitting at home worrying about how they're going to get their clothes for their school kids. Not a single one of them have ever had that worry. They're all multi-billionaires. None of them have the same worries as you do. And none of them have ever experienced a proper day's work like you have. No. None of them can even relate to your life. Not a single one of them. But the person you're arguing with about them certainly can. And you're both worried about exactly the same thing and the same outcome. Is the future of your children. And that's what we're all got in common. So they don't live in the same reality as us. They see us as pawns in their game. And we know this. Time and time again, we just can't get to that stage of going, let's ignore them. Because it's the best thing we could possibly do is say, you are irrelevant. And there's 8 billion of us to say that you're irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. And these are the people that send bits of kids to war.
Yeah.
Starmer's not going to the front line. Trump's not going to the front line. Zelensky's not going to the front line. He likes to pose in his little action man outfit, but he's not going to the front line. Neither's Putin. They'll be sat there watching it on telly while working class people get blown to pieces for nothing. Just quickly before we come to your last story, there's been a lot of people obviously talking about the Deagle predictions of population decline and growth and stuff like that. There was a lot of talk about that during COVID, where people were looking at what was predicted in terms of population. Now, I can understand people looking at that and becoming alarmed, because you look at the populations of Europe in declining insanely. Countries like the Republic of Ireland losing, well over 2/3 of their population predicted to in the next 10 years. Well, why? Something is clearly planned, but at the same time, as much as that might fill people with a bit of dread and a bit of confusion, doesn't mean it has to happen. As you're saying there, Rich, we don't have to go along with it. Just because they want to destroy society to build a new one doesn't mean we need to accept that. And even more, Gaz, just like to just put in there, where they need us to do it, they can't do it without us doing it. Well, exactly. That's the point that is so important to get across to people. At the end of the day, they need you to build your prison. They need you to do that. And if you refuse to do it, if you down tools, then that's the end of it. How many tanks roll into town if no one decides to drive one? So final story, Rich. I mean, it talks of a Gaza hell plan. I can't imagine Gaza being any more hell than it already is, but apparently it can be. I mean, what a title to bring up Israel and a Gaza hell plan, but there you go. And it is hell for every single one of them. And that's why it's important that we over here have the chance to be able to speak out for them, because they don't have the chance for themselves, obviously. Israel preparing hell plan for Gaza. This is the world we live in. That would cut electricity and water. I mean, I believe they've done this already, but there you go. Israeli government is preparing. Starmer accepted it, even though it's a recognised war crime, and as a former criminal lawyer, he would know this.
Well, yeah, but you didn't even know about Jimmy Savile, who was the head of the was it the Crown Prosecution
CPS, yeah,
Service?
of course.
CPS, yeah. The Israeli government is preparing a hell plan for the Gaza Strip that would involve cutting all electricity and water to the territory, on top of the blocking of food, fuel, and other goods that was announced by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. The Israeli broadcaster Khan has reported. So how are they going to get the information out there if they've got no charge in their, the ability to actually broadcast from there? It's basically going to go black there, and you're not going to know what's going on, and the lights are going to come up and there's going to be no one left on the stage. According to The Guardian, the Cannes report said that the hell plan would also involve forcing Palestinians in northern Gaza to move to the south to prepare for a reassumption of the bombing campaign. They put it like it's a campaign. It's genocide, just call it what it is. Other Israeli media reports say Israel is preparing a full-scale resumption of its genocidal war if Hamas doesn't accept Israel's terms. The Hamas that was controlled and propped up and, I believe, created by Israel in the first place. This is what we're saying. Don't do it. Don't allow yourself to be martyred by these guys. They can't do anything without your consent. So a hell plan for Gaza, a hell plan for a place that you've turned into hell already. Even Trump's coming out and saying, well, they can't live there because look at the place. Well, you did it. That's the absurdity and the insanity of these people. You go into a place, you smash their houses down and kill all their children, and you go, can't live here anymore. It's not very safe. What a way, what a strange planet we live on. What a sad situation we've got ourselves into in humanity at the moment. And I know this isn't a very uplifting one, but you've got to face the truth.
Yeah.
You can start from the truth.
I don't think people realize the resilience of the Palestinian people because they are, much maligned probably by people watching this because they've, been fed the propaganda of that. And I was fed that propaganda as a kid by the television. And then I went to Israel and I saw things with my own eyes. And I didn't have the view that they were all wrong-uns because I don't trust the media, but I'd been fed that. And then I saw with my own eyes that I was being lied to, of course. Now, for me, this is simply a case of you've bombed the living hell out of the place. You've murdered tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of children. A lot have fled already, but others have come back and they've gone back to the north because they have an unbelievable resilience, Palestinians. I think Israel probably hoped and somewhat expected them to have all cleared off by now, and they haven't. So, okay, well, we need to resume bombing again because the end plan of this, we've seen by Trump's AI video. It's to become part of Israel. Simple as that.
Trump Gaza.
Gone.
Yeah, calls it Trump Gaza. I mean, openly. Yeah. It's just vile.
Yeah, it's vile. And the thing is, it ties in perfectly with why there's been such a huge crackdown on perceived anti-Semitism across the world, particularly across the Western world. Now, Trump, when he came in, one of his first things he did was to push through this anti-Semitism bill. Pam Bondi, we spoke about earlier, RFK Jr. tweeted about it a couple of days ago. He's classing, bearing in mind, he's head of the health department. He's classing anti-Semitism as a health problem, a health crisis. Just sort vaccines out, will you? And so it's clear that they're just pushing it everywhere. Any protests against Israel is to be basically banned on campus. University campuses that allow it to happen will have their federal funding pulled. And what that's doing, Rich, is that's a way of basically making the university police the students, so that the basically the government and the police don't have to, because the university will crack down on the students because they can't lose the funding. They will deport foreign students who protest against Israel, revoke their visas, which it goes against the First Amendment, because the First Amendment protects the right to protest. It protects the right for free speech, including foreign nationals, but not anymore because Israel. And you look at that and you go, that's happened in the last few days and months. This hell plan is coming. Now, why would you want to shut up dissent? Why would you want to stop people being able to protest and speak out against someone unless you know that something's about to happen which is going to make a lot of people pissed off, is going to make a lot of people want to protest and take to the streets and have their voices heard? So what you've done is you've smashed the censorship in advance, which is what they do. It's like, quick, close all the windows, shut down all the doors, okay, because we know what's coming, Rich.
Not only that, and we mentioned this before, and just briefly, I think this was a good point, is that you've not only smashed dissent, what you've done is you've smashed the ability to record accurate history. All of these people doing their degrees, their honours degree, their master's degree, that would write dissertations about this, books about this, usually because of clearly what it is, will not do so because they won't get their degree, their black hat of Saturn. So that you're actually deleting history, and who writes the future writes the past, and it's that's what's going to happen. How are you going to record history in the US, which will be the place where you would go to look? Fortunately, there's people out there like us, but unfortunately, it's all on the internet, and that could be control or deleted at some point. So it's not only that; it's the future children understanding who these guys are across the board, that you're stopping recording. The students of the future will be entrained to look the other way when Israel commits genocide. And I'm not talking about the Israeli people, obviously. We're talking about the Sabbatean Israeli government that connected to this messianic nonsense. They are bringing down the Israeli people, as you said at the start, with them, because they do not care about those people. There's a two-tier situation in Israel as we speak. You have Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardic Jews that are treated completely different. A lot of people don't even know that.
No, and we've said it multiple times, but remember, this was a testing lab for Pfizer. So that's how much the Israeli government, those were Netanyahu's words, this is how much the Israeli government cares about the Israeli people. It doesn't. It's been quite negative, but we're going to end on a positive, Rich, because obviously you take over from tomorrow and do tomorrow and Friday on your own. Me and Jay are going to be cycling from Leicester in the East Midlands of England all the way down to the Isle of Wight. It's about 180, 190 miles. We've raised over £7,000 now for vaccine injured people already. Wow. We want it obviously to go as high as we can. But I'm just going to give a quick shout out now, Rich, to a lady called Janet, who is a lifetime member. I won't give her surname out because she might not want me to. She's a lifetime member of Ickonic, and she donated 1,000 English pounds. Wow. £1,000 to the cycle yesterday, which is just unbelievable, just blown my mind. And if you're watching this, Janet, thank you so much. It's so greatly appreciated. Unbelievable. If anyone else wants to donate, don't expect you to donate £1,000 because that's unreal. £1, 50p, 20p, doesn't matter. It all adds up. It all goes into the pot, and hopefully will take us up to our £10,000 target and beyond, hopefully, so we can really try and make a difference and help people that have been forgotten, because the vaccine, not that it's a vaccine, of course, is so politicized that these people aren't supported by the healthcare system and by people in general and by the media or anyone. They're not. They're sort of forgotten. We don't want to talk about them because it reflects badly on society who pushed them into it. That's true of the fact that we were supposed to, on two ferry companies that provide boats to the Isle of Wight, we were supposed to be able to collect donations on those two boats. Both ferry companies have rescinded that based on the fact who we're raising money for. So that just goes to show just how politicized it is. So the fact that people are donating is unbelievable. Thank you so much. And
also, Gaz, you mentioned that it's in honor of your sister who fought so hard to push back against this COVID madness, didn't she? Bless her heart. So
she
just
did.
To put that in there,
she
as a personal.
She would have been 50 on Friday, so that's the point of us arriving on the Isle of Wight. Her children and lots of her friends and obviously mum and dad and stuff are gonna be there on the island when we get there. So yeah, it's gonna be quite an emotional, quite draining, quite physically tiring experience, but one that hopefully is hella rewarding, and with the donations coming in, hopefully will make a difference to people.
And we're filming it as well, aren't we, Gaz? So you'll be able to watch it on Ickonic.com.
Yeah, eventually. So you can all have a good laugh. I don't have a pretty cry face. So Rich, you're back tomorrow then. I shall tune in actually whilst I'm cycling. I'll have it on my headphones because I could do with some distractions from the pain. So I'll be listening to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on Ickonic, and I would urge obviously everyone to join Rich tomorrow. As always, today's show was sponsored by our brand new range of Ickonic coffee. If you head over to shop.ickonic.com, use the code TRENDING, that will get you 10% off that. All the profits we make from it goes back into Ickonic to try and bring you as much content as we possibly can in what is an unbelievably important time in history. See you later, Rich, and I'll see you next week. Take care, mate.
Bye.